I came in, I was like 6'1", 240. I was benching like 530, 780 squats. So I was pretty strong. I was ready to go. Coach Alvarez says, Brad, you're ready. You worked hard in the summer and gave the opportunity. At Iowa, people don't understand, linebacker room, there was like 14 guys. So you see your name on the depth chart, inside strong side linebacker, there was five guys in front of you. I remember calling home going, Dad, I'm fifth, sixth string. It's new, like when you go to a big program like Iowa.
Welcome to the Gallery and Hurley Unfiltered podcast, Iowa Football Rewind.
Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast player to get a behind-the-scenes look that you won't find anywhere else.
Tonight we have Brad Quast, a linebacker from the Iowa Hawkeyes from 1986 to 1989, all Big Ten performer, and one of the few people to start all 4 years at linebacker. Brad, welcome to the show.
Oh, good to be on. Thank you. Thank you. Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.
You too. You grew up in Illinois. Can you talk about where you're from and your foray into sports for high school?
I grew up in Des Plaines, Illinois, went to Forest View High School in Arlington Heights. Played football since I was 8 years old, baseball, basketball, played everything. Back then, you played multiple sports. Now people are just focusing in on one sport and playing it all year round. And then ran track in high school, the 100, 220, 4x1, and then threw the shot put. Never had an off season, always playing some sport, sandlot baseball, the pickup basketball, getting ready for football. So it was fun.
At what point did football become a focus for you?
Probably after my sophomore season of football, I started focusing more. I gave up baseball and really focused more on the track and lifting and gravitating everything towards football.
You mentioned lifting. Was that a big thing at your school at that time? Some of the programs developed around us or after us. So was the weight training kind of a big deal?
I was a gym rat. I lived in the weight room and just enjoyed lifting. I was prepared physically to come in and play as an 18-year-old at Iowa. It definitely helped. Most guys come in and get redshirted because they're not physically ready. I was strong enough, big enough to handle the wear and tear of the Big Ten. So that helped, being prepared from the weight room aspect.
I can imagine. What size were you at that point?
So I came in, I was like 6'1", 240. I was benching like 530, 780 squats. So I was pretty strong. I was ready to go. So Coach Alvarez says, Brad, you're ready. You worked hard in the summer and gave the opportunity. It was interesting. At Iowa, people don't understand, linebacker room, there was like 14 guys. So you see your name on the depth chart, inside strong side linebacker, there was five guys in front of you. I remember calling home going, Dad, I'm fifth, sixth string. There's five guys ahead of me. And it's frustrating. You're not used to not getting a lot of reps during practice and watching. So it's new, like when you go to a big program like Iowa.
When did the recruiting process start for you, and talk about the other schools that you were looking at? Walk through that if you would for us.
Yeah, obviously, the whole recruiting process has changed tremendously, how it is nowadays. Growing up in the Midwest and in the suburb of Chicago, I was a Big Ten guy. I wanted to go to a Big Ten school. I got my first letter, I think, going into my junior year was from Missouri. And then you start getting the letters and things start working out and you progress as an athlete. You got to decide where you're going to take your 5 visits. My 5 visits were Illinois, Mike White. Rick George was the recruiting coordinator. He was at my high school like once a week, being in Illinois. And then I went to Iowa, obviously. Michigan, Notre Dame, and UCLA were my 5 official visits I took. I had to decide out of those 5.
Being a local Illinois kid, how big of a draw was Illinois at that point for you? How did you figure out the Hawkeyes was the place for you?
Illinois, they came after me pretty hard. Rick George, I've never seen a grown man cry. Rick George was the recruiting coordinator. I still talk to him. He's a dear friend of mine. I'm a lot older than you guys. So back in the mid-'80s, recruiting was a different world, put it that way. They would wine and dine you and do some nice things for you and promise you the world. It was a fun opportunity. He was a little upset that I didn't go. It was fun during the recruiting visit at Illinois. The Chicago Bears were getting ready for the Super Bowl in 85, 86, and they were practicing in their indoor facility at the time. They happened to be there that weekend when I was down there visiting. I had a chance to go out with Hampton and McMichaels and some of the guys. It was a pretty fun, eventful trip for a 17-year-old kid. So we had a good time. It basically came down to Michigan and Iowa were my two final. Bo was pissed. I would see him every year at the banquets and stuff. He goes, "Quast, we're going to kick your ass again. Kick the Hawkeyes' ass again."
Were the other schools that were looking at you, were they talking about you playing right away? Was that something you were going in expecting, or was that something you worked yourself into?
You got to go in with a little bit of chip on your shoulder and a little bit of swagger. You don't realize how overwhelming the playbook is. So I just turned 18 going in the summer. So I'm 18 years old playing against 22, 23-year-olds. We're grown-ass men. And so you got to be ready for that. You think you want to play right away as a freshman. I had the confidence in just to learn as much as I could and slowly move up the depth chart. Coach Alvarez was instrumental in me going to Iowa. That's the only reason I went to Iowa. After my freshman year, he went to Notre Dame then with Lou Holtz.
As you were growing up, was there a figure in your life who put you on this track to be successful, to play at the college level that way? Come in that prepared.
My mom was athletic. My dad played at Memphis State, played with the Baltimore Colts. It was inbred that work hard and put effort in. Nothing comes easy. I came from a fairly athletic family. My younger brother played at Iowa as well, backed me up at linebacker. My little sister went to Kentucky for shot put and discus. It was in our blood. It's genes. You're going to be able to develop fast twitch muscles and be able to run a little bit, have a little bit of attitude towards you. That was my goal, to play at the highest level and try to achieve that.
Take us into your first year at Iowa and that transition. Tell us how that went.
You throw in the fact that you're away for the first time and you got academics, you're by yourself, and you got people that you've never met before. It was overwhelming. I was all focused on football. My first semester GPA, I got a 1.3. So Coach Fry calls me, he goes, "Brad," he goes, "you got to be eligible to play. You got to go to school." He said, you're gonna be in study hall for the rest of your career here at Iowa." How giddy we talk. I hit the books a little harder and focused more on academics. I recovered from my 1.3 GPA and brought that up. But it was overwhelming at first. Then playing right away as a freshman, and we were pretty good that year, getting interviewed by the Brett Messburgers on CBS and things of that nature. It was fun. So I get to Iowa as a freshman, and my number, it was 41 since I was 6 years old all the way through high school. 41 was my number. And I'm like, I'm getting 41. I'm a high recruit. And then I see the Stoops legacy has 41. I go, shit. Yeah, 41 was my number. I'm like, I can't.
At what point do you think like the game slowed down and you started to feel comfortable? Was that pretty close to right away?
I have that thing when the game slows down for you. When I was coaching my son or other kids, that's when it clicks. Probably it slowed down going into my junior year. I loved watching film with Coach Brazier and coming out and 22 personnel, third and long. Here's what they're running. When they line up, there's 3 plays they're going to run, and you guess you're in the hole before the pull and guard. That's when Utopia. It's just everything comes together and the game becomes real fun. The last couple of years, that's what it was like in college.
You mentioned Coach Brazier. Who else was someone you leaned on in the coaching staff there or that part?
Well, Coach Alvey was a big part. If Coach Alvarez was not at Iowa, I'd be go blue. I'd be a Michigan guy, to be honest with you. It came down to a toss-up between Michigan and Iowa, and then Coach Alvarez was there. So then it's so funny, when Coach Alvey went to Notre Dame, he called me before he left Quast. He goes, "Listen, you played right away. Come to Notre Dame with me, redshirt the year, and you and Stonebreaker could be my 2 inside linebackers." Thought long and hard about that one. So he was pushing to get me to go there, follow with him.
What ultimately kept you at Iowa, if you don't mind me asking?
Uh-huh. Who's watching this podcast? Everyone? Okay. What kept me at Iowa?
Yeah.
Just the good food. That's what kept me at Iowa.
Gotcha.
Uh-huh.
Well, as much as you like, so we're open.
Okay. All right. Okay.
You play right away in a position that's not easy to play right away. You're going up against 3-4 year older backs and
Yeah. I mean,
linemen.
the linemen are fifth-year seniors and they're 23 years old and grown-ass men. Physically, I was fine. It was just the mental aspect. I think I struggled the most with even jumping to the pros, the playbook. When you're Mike linebacker, you got to know what everyone's doing, making the calls and all the different changes in the back end and front end. That was difficult. Like in high school, you just line up and run and go chase the ball. And that's it. And in college, then you got to read different things and different keys.
What is that mindset that made you most effective as the game slowed down for you? Can you walk us through a little bit of being a linebacker? You have to be quick to react. Hundreds of things are going through your head, the plays and the formation.
Yeah, the coaches did a great job. So you take a game plan and you consolidate it. You get it down to different formations they run, what plays they run out of those formations, and then down and distance. And then and you're able to, and there's the technology is so great now. We were making fun. We're watching the video. It rolls, and we had to turn it off, and then it would break, and you'd have to mend it together and piece it. And Braves would be, oh, bro, God, help me out here. And so it's totally different now. But it's just that studying and the consistency. Everybody they run the same things. Offense coordinators will run the same go-to play when they need to. And if you guess right, there's 2 or 3 plays they're going to run in this formation, and the down and distance. It makes it easier, and boom, there's the key. You get your read, the guard pull, tackle down, and you're filling your gap, and it's great. I always got mad. We ran a basic 52, and I was blessed. I had a great nose guard with Haight and the guys that played in front of me at the zero technique. I'm watching all these other schools, and they protected the linebacker. They would always have 2 guys really take on the double team and make the linebacker clean, and you can make 20 tackles a game. Not at Iowa. We were 2 gap in and fending for yourself and have to cross over the center's hat. We're banging. And back then, the Big Ten was 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I'd line up 3 yards, boom, guard down. Here comes the fullback. I read and banging the fullback. The game has changed. The middle Mike linebacker, which I played, it will be obsolete here pretty soon. It almost is. With formations, they bring a safety that can cover better.
Yeah, it's crazy how the game has changed.
Yeah, completely changed.
You were a 4-year starter, so that meant you were super durable. What do you attribute that to? That's a tough position to stay healthy.
I think I had maybe 2 or 3 scopes, orthoscopic cleanup, and I never went through a spring practice, which was good. They gave me off spring, so I would rehab and lift. So I didn't go through any springs, which kind of saved my body a little bit. Broke the fingers and the wrist, and you cast that up. I didn't have any major knee surgery, which was a good thing. Opposed in the league, 3 ACLs and 5 knee surgeries since then. So, got to stay healthy. What hurt me though, my freshman year, I had a neck problem, and that cost me some money. I go to the combine, and they said, "Oh, you got stenosis in your neck and narrowing in the spine." That was a bad thing. Linebacker with a bad neck is not good. I get neck ablation every two years to kill the nerves. I'm shot. My body's shot.
Talk about some of your favorite Coach Fry stories, if you would.
Oh, Coach Fry. He was such a interesting guy. He had so much charisma and just so much personality. And I remember the first time he came into my house and recruiting us, he would walk in and he was that guy. And he just had such a great presence about him. The first academically, the other episode was my roommate was Mark Stoops and Peter Marciano. 2 characters. We had a good time. That's who I roomed with for 3 years. We got in a little trouble in Coralville at one of the establishments. And so me, Peter, and Mark get called into his office. And only Coach Fry does, he has his glasses on. He pulls them down. He goes, boys. He knew when to discipline you, when you had to be disciplined, and back off when you needed a little bit of encouragement. So I enjoyed playing for him. It was fun.
Any on-field stories that you remember?
He was always working the ref, always getting after him and trying to get calls. I remember him and Bo used to go at it all the time, which was fun to watch. They were the two big guys in the Big Ten, the two kings. He was just real animated. He gave great pregame speeches and halftime speeches. I still remember before every game, when after the Lord's Prayer, everyone get on their knees and hold hands. It was just meaningful memories that I remember playing for him. I think it was his 80th birthday. We went to Vegas and all played golf, and he was out there and just catching up with him.
Yeah, there were stories from that people said that he remembered everyone and something about them as he
He
came
was
through.
amazing. Great point. He was amazing. Every parent would come up. I'm talking about every guy on the team. He would know the parents. I first said, "Hey, John and Jack. Hey, Cindy and Julie." It was crazy. He knew everybody's parents. He made a point of that, and that's an art. Made you feel welcome, and that you were that part of something big.
For sure. And as far as memories for you personally on the field, do you have any of those?
It's crazy that they play so many games every year. It used to be like top 3 in the all-time tackles, and you move down because they're playing more games. I still have the most interceptions of all linebackers at Iowa. That's a good thing. Now I had 94 yards for a touchdown interception. I think that might be broken now, but it still stood for 30 years. I'm pleased with what I accomplished there at Iowa. Wouldn't change it for a minute. Met some great people. Was Ed Crowley the trainer when you guys were there?
He was, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Ed's out east by me, and I had breakfast with him about a month ago. We started telling stories and reminiscing about the good old days. Ed was a character. I remember Ed's story. It was one of the Michigan's games, national TV, and I tweaked my knee. He runs out there, and I'm laying there, and I go, "Oh, Ed, I'm embarrassed. It's national TV. All my buddies are watching back home." He goes, "Not as embarrassed as me. I just ripped my pants. My balls are hanging out of my pants." He ran out there and he ripped all his pants. A little bit of levity to the situation, but that's Ed for you.
That's great.
Our Town Hawks, they still do that with you? The Town Hawks, your families?
Did you have anyone, Nick? I didn't know of that. I mean, I knew of it, but I think it's starting to fade away a little bit.
Are they? Yeah. It got out of hand.
So you had a local family in Iowa City.
Yeah, so we had
take care
my
of
Town
you,
Hawk was
help you
Rudy and Gloria Glass, and Rudy was a doctor at the University Hospital, and I still talk to him. They still live in the same house. We'd go over there every Sunday for dinner. Gloria would make us dinner for us, hang out of the dorm or out of our apartment. But I tell you, it's changed. I went back for the Nebraska game a couple of years ago, and it's big time now. It's nuts. If this was around when we'd be in trouble.
Yeah, right.
Uh-huh.
Amen to that. Yes.
I'd be in trouble.
It's funny. The good thing would have been for the memories, because we have a friend of ours named Bubba. Someone said, Todd McManus said to say hi to you. I was like, I don't know who Todd McManus is.
Yeah.
And I'd known the guy for 25 years. And they were like, Bubba. I was like,
Bubba.
oh, yeah, Bubba. Yeah. That was his name?
Like Mike Ferroni was Beef. I don't know. Mike,
exactly.
Beef. Who? Mike? Who's Mike? But yeah, you'd get in trouble. And Sheriff Hughes would bring us home from downtown. Now you got to watch out. Someone's trying to get you in trouble. So it's a different world. On the other hand, I would have been making a lot of money in NIL, though. I'll tell you that. They were selling my jersey and poster in the bookstore freshman all 4 years. I'm like, where's my money?
That's true.
Yeah, number 35. They were selling it after my freshman year in the bookstore. I'm like, okay, different world.
Yeah.
I was talking to Stoopsy Mark. I can go to Iowa, and Iowa, it's really going to be unfair. Iowa can't compete with the Michigans and Ohio States in terms of the NIL. So the rich will get richer. NIL is not good for Iowa in particular. They just don't have the money like the other teams will have. They're going to continue to get all the better players. So
It's probably a stupid question, but back then was Iowa more of a developmental type team as well, where they brought guys in that were not as high as recruit wise, or were they able to get those higher level recruits?
So my recruiting class in 86, 85, high school, 86, we were the number one recruiting class. Look at their staff. So you had Hayden, Barry Alvarez, Bernie White that would recruit the East Coast. You had Dan McCarney recruit, Snyder. All these guys went on to be head coaches. We had that best recruiting class, number one in the country back then. We had Dan McGuire was the top quarterback. Melvin Foster, he was one, I was two, linebacker in the country. Then you had Nick Bell, the number one fullback. We had a really good recruiting class. Then I don't know if the coaches ended up leaving, and I don't know what happened.
That would have been the 85 season.
It was a really good recruiting class. When you go to the Rose Bowl, yeah, Chuck Long should have won the Heisman, and Ronnie Hart. Yeah, they're playing UCLA in the Rose Bowl. It helps when you get publicity like that.
When I saw the 88 season, I think publications that were saying that Iowa would be ranked number one.
We were number one because Chuck Hartley was our quarterback, and he was a Heisman candidate. Funny story, our first game is at Hawaii. Hayden had this great idea. Let's go out another couple days earlier. You get a bunch of Iowa guys, Midwestern guys, and go to Hawaii for a couple days. I was so sunburned I couldn't even put my shoulder pads on before the game. It was terrible. We're out at Waikiki Beach having a good time. Oh, shit, we got a game to play. They ended up beating us. That was a long trip home. We had a bunch of guys that were coming back for preseason Heisman candidate. Half the defense was preseason all Big Ten, Marv Cook, and then they ended up beating us. So not good.
I think they do that to a lot of people just like that. Oh, come out, enjoy the beaches. It'll be fine.
Yeah,
you guys will
go ahead,
steamroll us.
have fun. Yeah, it's hot.
Jump
You're
on
not
you.
used to it, and then you get your butt kicked. Yep.
Yeah.
Take your shirts off. Yeah, fry yourself. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right.
Alvarez leaves for Notre Dame. Who took over for linebackers?
Bill Brazier. He went from the DB's coordinator, and then he went to linebackers, and that's when they brought Bobby Elliott, and then Bobby was the DB coach.
Then he went to D coordinator. Must have been during your time. It was okay.
Yeah, Bill Brazier. So he was the linebacker, D coordinator, and linebacker coach. Yep.
Okay.
Bobby Elliott was probably really young at that point too, right?
Yeah, he was young. Yeah.
Yeah, he was really an impactful part of our team and recruited himself. And he was a great
really
guy.
was. I still talk to Coach Mack, Dan McCarney. He's doing good. He's out down in Florida, and they were all young and energetic, and they'd get after it, get you pumped up for practice and the games.
I think there's a hiatus of coaches that left either after your senior season or right before. Ferentz left, or McCarney went to Wisconsin. Snyder left for Kansas State.
Yeah, so that's when Barry got the job, and then he brought Dan to DC at Wisconsin. Yeah, everyone had left and regime changed. Back then, Coach wouldn't let us out on Thursday before the game. That was off limits. So we played poker every Thursday. And then
Not on Friday.
no, not before the game. We couldn't do that.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
No, we were good about that. Back then, home games, you're in the dorm, you got the check, and you watch the movie, go back and get your snack. Obviously, on the road, you're at the hotel.
So were you guys not at the hotel on home games? You were in your dorms?
We didn't do that. We were in the dorms.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, which wasn't good. I like being in the hotel. Guys were having the girls over or sneaking out. They learned their lesson and put us in the hotel. We were still in the dorm.
When Nick and I played 93, they were shipping us up to Cedar Rapids every Friday night prior to the game. It must have been only a couple years that they had just started doing that.
You go to Iowa because you want to play in the Rose Bowl. So I get there after the Rose Bowl, and then my true class goes to the Rose Bowl. I'm like, come on. Matt Rogers, my senior year, was on a learning curve. He put it together, and they win the Big Ten next year.
With a lot of guys probably in your class.
Yeah, it was my whole class. So that class that came in, me and Jeff Keppel were the only two that played as freshmen, and the rest got redshirt.
It was a good recruiting class, number one, and 4 years later, 5 years later,
they got
they're in the
Rose
Rose
Bowl.
Bowl.
Yeah, and back to the dorms. Did they made you stay in the dorms all 4 years too, or no?
No, so I changed that. I said, Coach, I didn't get redshirted, so I moved out after 2 years. Me, Mark, and Peter, we had an apartment. What street was that? I forget what street it was, but that's another story. God rest his soul. Peter was crazy. Peter Marciano. He was one of a kind. One of a kind.
I never met him, but I've heard many people talk about him.
Brockton boxer, Marciano. He was 5'6", tough as nails. He got knocked out every game. He'd get knocked out punt returner. He'd run 5 yards this way, 5 yards eastward, and then he'd fall for 4 yards. Then he brought two to the house, two back, one Minnesota and I think Illinois. And it's just a character. He had great hands. He would never drop anything. He didn't know the plays. So Coach Snyder would yell, Peter, you got to know the plays. You can play. He just didn't know where to go. We lost him. That's sad. So I lost Peter and Bill Anderson in my class. I don't know if anybody else passed in my class. I know those two are gone.
We've lost two guys from our class, I think. Right?
Did you?
Ian Davis and Driscoll.
Okay. Yeah.
Ryan Driscoll. Yeah, I think Scott
Oh,
played in there too. Yeah, it's way too young.
How old are you guys?
50.
I'll be 50 in February. Seems crazy.
Goes quick.
Yeah, right. Talk about going on to the next level. If you worked out for teams or that experience.
Yeah, I was thinking about coming out as junior. You get all the rankings and you get invited to the combine. Then I found out I flunked all my physicals on the combine because with my neck, Ralph Sinders was my agent, and he goes, Brad, so you're projected different. They come in, you work out. They come to Iowa, you do all the testing and go through the medical. You wait for the draft. You have all the sheets, totally different now compared to back then. The draft is going the way you thought it would. Teams that are looking for a middle linebacker that worked you out, all of a sudden you don't get something's going on. They pass, and then you keep on passing. My agent calls and says, okay, I'm going to ask around. And they said, yeah, every physical you took, they didn't like what they saw. So you're a medical risk. I'm like, oh boy, really? I wish you would have told me that. It was a long day. And I got drafted by the Jets, which is a great opportunity. And you're happy to be drafted. Then go out to New York. Monty Kiffin was my linebacker coach, and Pete Carroll was my DC. We had Foch Fazio was the special team coach with the Jets. Bruce Coslett was the head coach. You're playing, and then second game, you get hurt, and then you can't play. They put you on IR and then waive you. Like they're saying, you can't make the club in the tub, right? So you got to stay healthy to play. You got to be lucky and in right place, right time to have a long career. And that's the main thing, stay healthy. And I just wasn't able to stay healthy at all. I had 2 ACLs on my left knee and a total of 8 knee surgeries total. My last year was 93 after having 2 reconstructions on my left knee. I was out of the game for 18 months. That was it. Time to put a suit on and get a real job. Met some great people, had the opportunity to meet my ex-wife, and got 3 great kids out of the deal and live out east and have great friends out here.
I also saw that you played for the Dragons in the World League, right?
Yeah, so that was in between the Jets and the Eagles. Yeah, that was fun. Played for Jack Bicknell. That was when the World League came out. They would designate some players to get playing time. It was right before the Olympics in '92 where they had over there. That was a treat. We had a great time there. Great experience.
Yeah, talk about that a little more.
Yeah, so it was the first year of that league. They had the Barcelona Dragons, the London Monarchs, the Frankfurt Galaxy. They had New York, Orlando, Montreal, San Antonio, Sacramento. They had some teams in the States. The London Monarchs, they had a veteran team in Jack McNeil. We were in sweats. We never put pads on during the year. We practiced a half an hour. We lived in our hotel. We were right on the beach in Barcelona in a town called Sitges, Spain. It was paradise. It was like a vacation, and we played football occasionally every weekend. It was quite an experience.
Did you travel back to the U.S. for games, or every game?
Yeah, we did. We traveled back to the U.S. We'd play 2 teams in a row. We'd play Orlando and then New York, or we'd play San Antonio, Sacramento. We'd be there for 2 weeks and then come back and play in Europe. We were like a rock band, traveling.
Yeah, it's crazy with the time zones.
Yeah, the time zones were tough. And then the language barrier was interesting. Not a lot of people were speaking English.
Yeah, I'm sure. I played for the Frankfurt Galaxy, and we bounced around, and we played in the Olympic Stadium
in Barcelona.
For that, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, that was the same. That's the stadium. They built that stadium for the Olympics. Yeah, that's the stadium we played in too.
Okay, got it.
They had a team in Amsterdam too. That was fun.
Oh yeah, I got it.
Yep.
Was there Ryan Fire then too?
Yep.
We did about the same thing. Yeah, we had a coach that was relatively laid back.
Who was that?
I want to say it was like 96, 97 maybe.
Okay.
Towards the end of my career. Dick Curl was the coach.
Oh, yeah. So Dick was our offense coordinator.
The crowd would cheer for whoever scored. Wait,
Yeah.
that's the wrong team there, folks.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing cheering for them?
They didn't know how to react to the different things. You're right. Cheering, they would kick a field goal or throw a pass incomplete. They still cheer. You know.
Yeah, they just were happy something was happening, I think, to
Yeah.
some degree. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. You said the Eagles sent you over?
Yeah, no, it was in between Jets Eagles. So it was 90, 91, then right to the Eagles in 92.
One of the things we were talking about was how terrible the Eagles stadium was.
That stadium was a baseball football field, and it was terrible. And our locker rooms, we shared, they were terrible. It was like fold up chairs in the meeting room. We shared the same steam, sauna, and showers with the Phillies. The Phillies had their locker room up to the dugout. The seams of where the bases were, they put turf on, and there was a couple-inch gap.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that with the turf. You have like a little inch hump. You go along.
Yeah.
Also, it was like this little thing. This
It
has
wasn't
got to be
good.
terrible
Yeah.
for people
Yep.
that are running around and trying to hit each other on it. Do you have any good NFL stories?
In my rookie year, trying to take on Christian Okoye with Kansas City, the Nigerian Nightmare, and he ran right over me. That didn't happen a lot in college. He was such a soft-spoken gentleman, ran right over me, laughed. He goes, "Welcome to the league." And his accent. You play in college, and maybe every other game, there might be a guy that's going to be playing on Sundays. Pros, they're all pros. The speed of the game and the complications of different sets, plays, and movements, totally different. Talk about being in the playbook. We had to study a heck of a lot more. It was more complicated, that's for sure.
Was there anyone else that really stood out, like talent-wise, that you remember that was just head and shoulders above?
Al Toon with New York was just special. Freeman McNeil was good. Their work ethic, how they moved, and just the professionalism on and off the field. I was really in awe. I went down to Philly playing with Herschel Walker. He really didn't lift weights. We were never in the weight room, but he was doing push-ups and sit-ups. He looked like he was made out of clay. He was just a freak that ran and just always in shape. And I always marvel at him. We were at Westchester. You'd go in and shower and come back out and go eat. He was out there. He would sign every autograph. He would never turn anybody down. He'd still be out there signing autographs. Everybody's going to get lunch or dinner. He was out there doing his duty. He was a star. And he was real humble about everything. I'll tell you, the toughest, one of the best was Tony Manders of playing at Michigan State. He was probably the most physical guy I've ever won against, college or pro. He was a beast. He was good.
What do you think happened in the NFL then? It was an expectation thing.
I think it was two things. I think it was an expectation thing. I think he arrived and he just didn't work. I think he just got lazy. And I don't buy that because he's not taking the juice. He was still a freak, but expectations that he was going to be the greatest ever tackle. He just probably made his money and didn't put in effort. Physically, though, he was angry and he was real athletic.
It's not always the athlete either. The coaching or being on the wrong team or the wrong scheme.
You bring up a good point. You're literally one play or the right situation by playing 10 years in the league or selling insurance. There's a lot of luck to playing and being healthy. Playing 2 or 3 contracts in the league is the right situation, the right opportunity, and coaching. Maybe your schemes fits the way you play. Let's say you're a free agent or you're not a top 2 drafts. Someone's got to get hurt. You have an opportunity to show yourself. Sometimes you don't get an opportunity to do it.
A huge shout out to Nate Kading and the incredible team at Hamburg Inn No. 2 for revitalizing a true Iowa City icon. This historic spot is back, serving up the comfort food and legendary pies and shakes we all know and love. Whether you're a local or just visiting, make sure to stop by and experience the magic yourself. Check out their story and menu at hamburginnno2.com.
They don't hit anymore. I don't know how you show and make the team in practice. You can't hit anymore. It's a country club. It's beautiful. We were banging for 6 weeks straight on the field for 5 hours a day in pads in both practices. Now it's a cakewalk. So totally different.
Yeah, it was interesting. I bounced around teams on camps. You would be like, okay, I know a guy that's definitely better than people that were starting. Yeah, I think it is being healthy, getting hot at the right time. The same maybe in college. If you're drafted high or you're a high recruit, then you get a little more of a leash to say, okay, we didn't hit it right away. I think people don't realize it's such a competitive sport and so many people are knocking on the door.
There's so many good football players out there. That's why guys want to play. There's the spring league and there's other opportunities to keep them playing so they can get more reps and get opportunities. There's a lot of good players on the street. The guys that are playing on Sundays are good, obviously, but there's players that are pretty good that just need an opportunity. That's all. And that's the same with college. Say you get to college and there's four guys in front of you. You got to keep on working and hopefully something happens. Now these guys make crazy money. It's nuts.
So I was a free agent. I made a small signing bonus. I think one of the places I was bouncing around. I was barely hanging on.
How many years you get in?
I bounced around for 5, and I went to a bunch of camps.
How many credited seasons they give you?
Oh no, in camps. I started on Kansas City, went to camp with them, got cut. Went to the Jets, was on the practice squad, played one regular season game with them, got cut the second week, so I think I got credited with 2 games. Bounced around some more with the Eagles for a couple weeks, practice squad.
Who was the coach there with the Eagles?
Ray Rhodes was getting fired, so it was just a free for all. It was like 2 or 3 weeks left of the season. Practice was entertaining to watch. John Harbaugh was the special teams coach there, which was cool to see him move on, do what he's done. The short time I knew him, he was a really solid guy.
The family's a good family. Yeah, I know.
That was great. And then I ended up going to sign with the Dolphins. Didn't mesh well there. Played one regular season game, got cut, and then signed with the Chiefs. They sent me over to Europe. Ended up being a friend of mine was the long snapper. He had never long snapped before. I think one of those casualties of the World League that I didn't have a good snapper. And I love the guy, but just wasn't used to doing it.
I got both my boys in major football. Long snap. You can play 12 years in the league with it. It's the best game in the league. Long snap.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There was a couple guys like Kendall Gammon and I forget the guy at the Jets just played forever. They were good athletes, but nothing spectacular. Just played forever. We're just so good at that. Went to Kansas City, had a pretty good camp, but was competing against Todd Sauerbrunn at that point, who has just like a cannon of a leg he could kick off, and then got cut. Then I got picked up by the XFL. I was the last person drafted in the XFL. They wanted me to be a blocking tight end, which I was like, I can run and catch. I haven't blocked in 6 years. This is not going to happen. In high school, I was a running back, so I didn't block much of that. I guess played a little tight end, but not much. That was my career. I bounced around for 5 or 6 years and only had that 2 game checks.
Brad, how many years of credit did you get?
Yeah, so I got 2.5. So they're going to hopefully change it. I heard they're going to bring it down to be vested. So my CBA, you need 3 years, 3 games.
I thought it was something like 3 years. Yeah.
3 years, 3 games. It's the worst pension of all sports. It's terrible. So it's a joke. Yeah.
Wow. That's frustrating that close to it.
How did you handle when you said, all right, this is too much. My body's been beat up. All these surgeries. Were you okay with that? Or was it pretty hard for you to leave that behind and move on?
Yeah, I think everyone struggles. It's a little easier when you just physically can't do it anymore. You had 2 reconstructions, 2 ACL, and they screwed up, and then you have another ACL, and then so you had 3. And then once you're past 16, 18 months, you haven't played, you lose that edge to you. Then you're like, oh, it's not worth it. I can't play. So then you go through the process of getting your worker comp stuff. Then after that point, you're done. But it's hard though. Then the first year you're done and you feel normal. I didn't watch football. You're pissed off. You're like, I should be there. I'm a sales guy, and this guy's running down kickoffs and playing football, the game that we played all our life. It was hard. It was very frustrating the first 2-3 years.
Dive more into that piece. I think we've got a lot of guys that have gone through the transition or going through that transition. What do you think helped you move past? If you want to talk about that, that'd be great.
I don't know. I don't think they do a good enough job. They got the rookie symposium. There was a stat. I think it was I want to say it was 80% of the guys 5 years coming out of the league are bankrupt, broke, goes hand in hand, divorce. That's staggering. And everyone thinks everyone makes a ton of money. There's only certain guys that make a ton of money, right? Where you don't have to work ever again. Most guys have to do something. And if they get divorced and you buy a couple of cars, you buy mom a house, you got to go out and support yourself and pay for that house and your lifestyle. And that's where the guys struggle with. I don't know what the answer is, the coping skills of how do you transition. I think you have to be prepared. I think it's important in the off season to get involved with the NFLPA or the alumni and doing quasi internships. You got to market yourself as best you can off the field and into that transition, life after football. Get into something, a franchise, your real estate, or repping a product. You got to be prepared because you can't play forever. You're going to eventually have to get a job.
Yeah, I appreciate you answering that. I think we've been through the process. We know the ups and downs. One of the things we're doing this podcast for is to help people that are doing that or starting to go through to have the true life experience and these tidbits of information and learning you wouldn't get from other stuff, right? Or they don't give you a playbook and say, here's the rest of your life, figure it out.
You set that community up. I would love to. I think we need to do a better job as Hawkeyes, right? With other schools, the Michigans, the Notre Dames, the USCs, or the A&Ms, they've come a long way with the Iowa alumni and coming back in the Iowa Legends. I think we got to take that up a notch in terms of the guys and get more guys to come back to home games. The tailgate, I've been to probably 3 or 4, and it's fun. We've done a nice job of seeing guys you haven't seen in 20 years, guys you played with, maybe online, like doing Zoom meetings and helping out communities. And business-wise, how we can network. It's all about networking. A buddy that you played with is in a field that maybe he can help you with. You're looking for a job and maybe you want to relocate. I'm going to go to Des Moines now. So it's things of that nature. I think we maybe do a better job as Hawkeye alumni, Hawkeye ex-football players.
Was he listening to our conversation, Nick, at the bowl game?
Yeah, right.
Oh my God.
I was going to say, we talked all about this.
Is that what you're doing?
The exact same conversation.
Yeah.
I think it's so important. We were blessed. That's why guys that grew up in Texas and California and New Jersey, they all live in Des Moines and Cedar Rapids because they love their Hawkeyes. My kids got a kick out of it when we went to Iowa came to play Penn State 10 years ago. We went to the Hawk Huddle, right? I'm signing autographs. My 2 boys were like, Dad, they thought I was blowing smoke up their butt about that I was okay at football. They saw the pictures and the plaques, All-American stuff. And they go, Dad, you weren't lying. You were good. Huh? I go, a little bit. Hawkeye fans love their Hawks, man. It's a neat place. There's nothing else to do. Grow the corn and watch Hawkeyes.
We both grew up in Iowa, so we agree.
Good place.
Drive around and drink beer, right?
I played with Matt Whitaker. When Trump fired Jeff Sessions, he made Matt the interim attorney general in D.C. Myself and a good friend of mine went to visit him when he was there, and it was great. We go up to his office, and he's giving us a tour of everything. Here's where they declared World War II and where his office is. He had 24/7 Secret Service around him. We went into Georgetown for dinner. We were in this huge Suburban with 2 Secret Service driving, 2 in back, a car in front of us, a car in back. We couldn't get out until they opened the door. Then they cleared the little bar and restaurant that we were in. They had a little table set up for us. It was surreal. And he was telling us stories about him being in that position. Fun Hawk story. We were telling stories about the good old days in Iowa City. And here he was the top cop in the country.
Yeah, it's wild. He was 46 before I was. When I saw that, I was like, wait, Matt Whitaker? I know that guy.
Now he's in charge of NATO. Yeah, got a nice job.
I can't imagine the Secret Service details like that, right? Can't take a piss without someone watching you, I'm sure.
Yeah. He goes, Quasty, they're with me 24/7. I can't leave without them. I go, you are the 3rd most powerful man in the world. President, vice president, and then him.
That's true.
Yeah.
Once you got done with your professional career, then talk about that. What did you get into?
Yeah. I'm a sales guy. in different sectors, different verticals. I was in healthcare. I worked for a specialty pharmacy. The majority spent it in large companies, sold software, application development. Currently, I work for a company called the Judge Group. We are about an $800 million company. We have 26 offices throughout the country. We do staffing, consulting, training in healthcare, government. So we'll find CFOs, CTOs in terms of placement. Our healthcare division, we do physical therapy. We do provide travel nurses. And then IT will find new Java programmers, basically a large headhunting firm and also a large consulting firm. We got one in London and then one in Singapore. So that's what I've been doing the last couple of years. I'll do that for like probably 2 or 3 more, I think, wind down.
We did see that you were a uniform inspector for the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
We have a lot of questions about that.
So that was interesting. Johnny Runyon's a good friend of mine. He's in charge, still works for the league office at Park Avenue. He's the one that finds everybody. In the pros, there's 2 guys at each home stadium, home and away, and we're literally on the sidelines. People don't realize it. We're right up the fine, so they have to be compliant. There's a code uniform that they're supposed to wear because of sponsorship, safety, and everything else. We write up the fines. I was down in Baltimore, and you get to the stadium, 1:00 game by 10:30, 11, and then they come out 90 minutes before. It's a piece of paper, carbon copy, 3 different pages. You get down there before the game, pre-game. They come out, usually kickers, punters, come out 60 minutes before the game. You're out on the field. I was on the visiting side. You basically write up fines. For example, their knees aren't covered, wearing the wrong socks. The socks aren't pulled up correctly or the wrong colors. Different violations, like the tinted visor. You have to be approved. We get a list of pregame. We get a list of who's approved the visor and who's approved to wear Nike Jordans. If you don't, you get fined for that. They fine you for everything. To the fact that how big of a business there's 30, how much money's at stake. One year, I was on the sidelines and I get a call from the command center up in New York. And it's Runyon, and he was yelling, screaming. The CEO of Gatorade called Roger, the commissioner, and was watching the game. The Gatorade jug had a piece of tape over the Gatorade. Something was blocking the Gatorade jug. He was pissed because they spend millions and millions of dollars for advertising and they couldn't see it. So stuff like that, they don't miss anything. Everything is watched, and they know they get fined. They have every opportunity to make the corrections on their equipment. They go in pregame, and then they go in before the game. They designate a person on the team, the coach. I give them the sheet, who's in violation. They come out for the game, and then first quarter, second quarter, I'm on the sidelines. They go into halftime. I give the same guy the second sheet. And then if they come out in the third quarter and they don't make the adjustments, then I take pictures of them, upload the form, and then send pictures because they always try to argue that with John, upload it in the system, and then they get fined. We were fined in 25, 30, 40 grand a week. Same guys, same fines, they're paying it. Crazy type of money they blew.
Oh, wow. I was wondering if you give him a chance to correct it. Yeah, it sounds like.
Remember Beckham with the watch? He wore the $250,000 watch. He beat the system, so he wore the watch, took the $25 off fine. He got a free watch. He got so much publicity because everyone was talking about it. The website of the company crashed, and they got more publicity than they knew that they could pay for. So he beat the system there. Then there was another game. Forget who it was. It was an AFC team, but he wasn't compliant. So John goes, if he doesn't do what you're asked him to do, you can go stop the game, a national TV game. I go, John, I'm not stopping. He goes, Brad, you got to go get in there, stop the game, and call the ref and tell him he's ejected from the game. So that's crazy how much power you have. Then at halftime, you go up, you eat. You had a spot up at the 50-yard line up in the booth where we were sitting. It was always the away team, the next, like the other opponent's team, they would send scouts there up in the box there for the game. looking at the mechanics, seeing if they can steal a sign in personnel. So they were scouting that. I got a chance to meet all the owners, the TV announcers. It was a fun gig because you have full access to anywhere you want to go in the stadium.
So did you work any game locally? You could go to any state.
So I was assigned to Buffalo. It was a 3-hour drive from where I live in South Jersey to Baltimore. I wish I would have got Philly because it's 20 minutes over the bridge.
That's where you met John Runyon. Was it Philly?
I met John when John was playing. A friend of mine hooked him up with a dealer card, and then I've known John for 20 years now. I hope he gets in the Hall of Fame here soon. Pretty close. He was an All-Pro 6-7 years. Congressman. I did a couple of fundraisers for him when he ran for Congress.
The Jersey thing's interesting, I think, especially like for us guys who are on the cusp of making the team and not having any money. We were, oh God, we didn't want to do anything that we thought we might get in trouble.
Yeah, you're very compliant. Yeah, 15, 20 grand in preseason will kill you. You want to be compliant with all your uniform.
Yeah,
and then it's crazy. Every once in a while you watch a game and we're all padded up with the J pads. I had the big neck roll, the Don's neck roll. Now the guys don't even wear any pads. The game, everyone looks different.
I can't believe that. I know. We were saying the same thing. Like, where are the pads?
Yeah. Where's the pad? No one wears pads. And we had the big hip pads and knee pads and the arm pads and elbow pads. Now they don't wear anything.
Yeah, it drove you crazy in the college football playoff. I think one guy looked like he had shorts on. They were like that hiked up. I was like, this is insane. What, like, you don't want to protect your kneecaps at all? The guy that you were going to kick out of the game had continuously violated the protocol for the uniform?
Yeah, I had the ability to stop the game. You got to remove them from the game, and they have to.
Wow.
Yeah, it was nuts. That's how strict they are.
How many years did you end up doing that role?
It was like 5 or 6. Yeah, it was fun.
Was it right after you got done or more recent?
My last year was like, I wanted to see my youngest son play. If we had a game in Baltimore, I wouldn't be able to travel with him or do anything that weekend. You got to come back for a Sunday game. And every once in a while you'd have Monday night, Thursday night games. But it was fun. I enjoyed it for the 4 or 5 years. If something opened in Philly, I would probably do closer, just right over the bridge.
If you got lucky enough to be in Miami, San Diego, Phoenix, then you got to do the Super Bowl as well?
It was just in Baltimore.
No, but I'm saying like the guys that were in those stadiums, then they got to do if the Super Bowl was there? How'd that work?
So if the Super Bowl is in that stadium, I think they do someone from the league office. I don't think the local guy. I think the league brings in the guys from Park Avenue.
Got it. So it's not like the referees.
You know, I ran. Yes, he's older than me. He was in the Rose Bowl, 86 Rose Bowl, and Scott Halverson is in the pros, reffing. He was a receiver at Iowa. He was from Des Moines.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back to the referees. One of my old summer roommates, Brett Nemmers, his dad, Larry Nemmers, was a NFL ref for a long time as well.
It's a good gig to get in.
Yeah, it seemed like, and I think it was before it was much harder and more stringent. People realized it was a great thing.
It's crazy though. And they're not the youngest guys, and you got some of the best athletes in the world running around, and you got a 50-year-old, trying to keep up with them.
Especially when some of those guys are so fast. I was telling one of the stories earlier. Punted, and the guy was so fast that I literally thought, I was like, I got to run fast enough to stay in the TV screen. That's how far he was away from me. I was like, there's no chance in hell of catching this guy.
Talk about speed. You go from high school to playing big time college, and then it's fast. And then from college to pros, it's like 10 times that. How fast the hole opens up and how quick they're moving. It's a totally different game.
Yeah, it was eye-opening. I went back a couple of times for like a high school game and to see the difference between the NFL game and the high school. Just like, wow, they just somebody slammed on the bricks. Kids look like they're running in mud comparatively.
I don't know what it's like where you guys are at, but the parents here are delusional about their kids playing big time sports. Oh, that kid's a D1 kid, and they have no clue. Every parent thinks their kid's going and playing on Sundays or in the MLB or NBA or NFL. They just don't understand what it looks like or takes to play at that level.
I've got a really young daughter, so we haven't got into that piece yet.
Yeah, my daughter. So my daughter she ended up playing lacrosse at Liberty. Now she coaches at Liberty. She was playing basketball, soccer, lacrosse. And you start traveling, like these travel teams, you're all over the place. It's nuts. So you're every weekend you're gone.
Yeah, and then some of those parents I've been to games where they've threatened to kick out all the one side of the parents because they were just screaming at the refs
Yeah.
for like 22-year-old, 18-year-old kids or 17-year-old
Yeah, they're
kids.
nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Did you ever consider getting into coaching, or did you do some coaching, you said?
I did. So I obviously coached the kids, and then I coached for 3 years. I coached at TCNJ. It was in the NJAC conference, a Division III team in Trenton. Loved it. It was great. They didn't pay me, and I'm driving an hour each way, spending time away from my family, missing out on a lot. And it was so rewarding coaching kids. If I had to do it all over again, I would have done it. And I did have opportunities with Mark and Mike and the Stoopses and with Alvy at Wisconsin. At the time, I just had kids in your career, and it didn't match up with my life. If I had to do it all over again, I would have pursued it a little more vigorously. I enjoyed it. It was fun. So Rocky Hagar was the head coach in DC, grading the film and watching the linebacker. It's a plus or negative when you grade the film, and then you get a percent of your grade. Coach Rock goes, you can't grade a negative like that. They just can't make that play. You can't look at it like through your eyes. That's the reason they're playing at a Division III. They're here because they're not playing at Iowa or Michigan. What you think they should be doing, you can't give them a negative. They're not physically able to do that. That was an eye opener to say, hey, they're here because they're getting an education and they like football.
That was everything on my list. Plowed through a lot of topics.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that was great.
We kept it PG, which is good.
We did want to ask something that's sensitive. We've seen some stuff about the CTE.
Chris Lewinsky is a good friend of mine that's running it. And right now, CT is only post-mortem. So I'm a brain donor. I'm going to donate the brain. There's no doubt about it, I have it. We're probably about 6 months to 8 months. We're able to detect CT in a living person by taking a sample. 2 years ago, I had a shunt put in my brain, and because I have cerebral fluid in my two ventricles, which saved my life. They caught it in time. I had it done at University of Pennsylvania Hospital across the river in Philly. If they have a test to determine you have CT, it's going to change the landscape of football forever. Why would you have your son play midget football 8, 9, 10 years old when you know it can do the damage it does? The technology is better. The helmets are better. We're smarter. We're not doing Oklahoma drills and running into each other head on. We're cautious of that, but it's still a collision sport, and you're banging heads. I can't add up how many concussions I had. There were games, college and pro, that you're functioning, but you don't remember if you won or lost, and you're there, and that's not good. So I definitely paid a toll for it. There's no doubt about it. It's the nature of the beast. I knew I'd be maimed, broken. I'd broken my fingers, my knees, hips are bad, but I don't think we knew the severity of the brain damage would happen. Oh, you saw stars, get in there. Okay, you had a concussion. I'm throwing up after the game. I'm dizzy for 2-3 days after. Not good. We've come a long way. The damage is done for us. That's my 2 cents on CTE.
Yeah.
And I'm passionate about it. I do a bunch of speaking engagements on the topic. Parents in communicating them. Make sure you're with a good head coach. The Heads Up program that we run, I'm passionate about because it was affected my life. It really did. So.
Do you mind talking about that stuff? I know that's personal, so if you don't want to, that's fine. I think it just doesn't get talked about.
So through the NFL, I'm blessed. You go to the Harvard study, you do different studies, and a gamut of tests up. So I knew I had problems with it, and then you start getting tests. You see a neurologist through the concussions protocol that you've had. I go up to Boston, and how many years ago? They do all the brain scans, and they put the dye in and do the brain MRIs, and they see the damage in my front lobes. And so the doctor says, listen, we I don't think you should fly back to Philly. You've got so much fluid in your ventricles that you got a problem. So fly back to Philly that Thursday, and through the NFL and the NFLPA, we start calling around who are the best neurosurgeons that do this procedure of putting a shunt. It's a device I'll have to keep for the rest of my life. It's in my head here. You could feel it's like a kind of like a compass, and it's adjusted. Then I got a catheter. I got a device in the back of my ear. It's a catheter that goes down my chest and then drains in my abdomen. There's a guy in Mayo Clinic, a guy in LA, and then Dr. Lee at University of Pennsylvania Hospital in Philly. Those three are the guys, the best guys that do this. And I go see Dr. Lee because he's in my backyard. I see him on a Tuesday. He looks at it, does another brain scan with the dye. He goes, I'm going to do surgery the following Tuesday. He's got like a 9-month backup to get surgery. I'm on his table the next Tuesday getting cut. He makes his rounds after the surgery. He goes, if we didn't do this procedure, you'd have a problem. I go, what do you mean? He goes, there was so much fluid when I put the shunt in there. The pressure was just, like it was squirted out. He goes, how'd you function? And he starts naming all the symptoms. You're angry, you're irritable, your memory loss, you just don't sleep. Check. It all makes sense now with the damage I did playing football. Now it's a recovery process. I laid in bed for 2.5 months. You couldn't move and we couldn't jump around at all. And thank God my hair grew back. We got a lot of hair, so it's good. But and then now I'm blessed. Every day I get better. So two things. We're more educated about it through the litigation of the Will Smith and the movie Concussion opened up everyone's eyes with the technology and more awareness about it. We're better coaches. They're not running into each other head-to-head contact. You can see these guys are so big and athletic, the way they run. The body's not meant to do that, to head on a collision. I know the NFL has the third-party person that has the tent and they go under, and I've been on the sidelines watching and how that procedure works and goes on. It's lip service appeasing the critics. So I don't know how serious they are. We're warriors. We don't want to go out. You break your finger, you're bloody. You don't want to miss any time. You're in there playing. The same thing with the head trauma.
Yeah, and it's a tough sport, and so it's suck it up and get back in there.
Yeah, well, I got concussion. No, but you can't see that. Your pupils are dilated. It hit home between my stuff, but really with Peter Marciano, he got concussed every time he touched the ball in the punt return. He wasn't the same person. He had his issues after. When he passed, I wanted to try to get as many people to donate their brains to the brain bank up in Boston with Chris, because we need research. We need to know. And I was talking to Mrs. Marciano. I said, listen, all the different things, his quirkiness or his behavior, is probably an answer to it. I think he probably has brain damage. Every game he was concussed. He got concussion. So there's something wrong. Let's send his brain up there so you get closure. You can figure that out. They didn't do it.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, it's personal to me as well. And I'll see these guys that have played and they passed away and they're 50 and they don't really say what happened. And
Yeah.
I can tell you what happened. The guy blew his fucking brains out.
I think Peter just had enough, and I've lost friends too. You got the world by the balls and they kill themselves? Something's wrong. They got brain damage. We look past that, and I think we got to do a better job. It's okay to come out and bring more awareness to it. That's what we should do.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you talking about it.
Listen, I'm an advocate about it, man. It's just, it changed. I was a complete jerk off. I'm like a different person. It was so much pressure in there. It helps. It changed everything. We just need to bring more awareness to it. It's okay if you're depressed. So figure this, a sport that you love to play, it's taken away from you, either injury or old. Now, oh shit, now what do? I got to be civilian now. And then plus you got brain damage and everything else. The guy's got a lot of stuff on their mind, and it's not good.
Yeah, it is a problem. And like you were saying, the NFL, people say, do you watch NFL games anymore? And I was like, no, these guys are really struggling. Some of the lawsuit money, I think they're really not paying guys out.
They fight it. My dear friend had the most clients in the litigation. They fight everything tooth and nail. They don't want to pay it out. It's just bad. They're making so much money. They're just being picks about it.
But yeah, I appreciate you talking about it.
Yeah, I'm passionate about that because I just near and dear to my heart.
I love that. And I'm glad that you're getting help and you're feeling relief from it. One of the reasons why we started this podcast, for me at least, was just to check in on guys and say, is it something that's bothering you? Are you getting help?
Yeah. Plus, in a smaller spectrum, like the NFL does an okay job, but like big programs like Iowa, the transition from being the man Hawkeye in Iowa City, I know guys in my class struggle with that. You're the big shot on campus, and now what do I do? It's a tough time, tough transition for them. It's tough to fill that void of being a big time college football player, and it's just that feeling of running out in Kinnick Stadium. Where do you live? You relive that in the swarm. Not you can't do it anywhere else. Guys tend to do stuff they shouldn't be doing. Not good. I think that's what happened to Peter. It's a shame. Yeah.
Yeah. And even just the mindset and the repetition of things that you did to get there, right? That doesn't shut off either. You've taught your brain to do things over and over and competitive.
What makes you great to play at a certain level, the focus is the narcissism, isn't good for anything else. It's like a soldier get trained for combat and you're good at that. And then you come home. It's now what do I do? It's similar to the same thing, that we go through.
You mentioned Heads Up. Is that one of the groups or foundations?
Yes, Heads Up program is I'm involved in. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Chris is great. Chris grew up in my area, but now he's the leading advocate in Boston, Chris Nowinski, and I help him out a bunch, and he's on Dateline. He's fighting the NFL all the time with the commissioner, the raw deal. He's like an advocate pushing. So if you want to get him on in this particular setting or environment, I can help you get. He'd be more than happy to, be an advocate or talk to you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'd be up for that for sure.
So like I help him with getting guys to donate their brain, the brain bank, after you die.
Yeah, I'm familiar with him and their work, not personally, obviously. Yeah, so that's great. Yeah, that's awesome.
I really appreciate it, Brad,
good.
coming on.
I like your background. Kinnick Stadium, baby. It's fun. A guy in the league in Iowa, I hated your pink locker rooms. As a visiting locker room, they still talk about the pink locker rooms.
Yeah, we've laughed with the guys about the different Hayden Fry things that he did, the stand-up tight ends and the drop-back passing.
You get a guy like he would get Bo Schemblacher so goofy, he'd send the equipment guys a day earlier and put butcher paper on all the pink lockers. See, boys, we got them nervous. And then he would always tell, Coach Fry would always tell a funny joke, make everyone laugh, lighten the mood up.
That's great.
I can't imagine what it's like to play. Let's say I'm making $600,000 a year in NIL, and the guy next to me is making nothing. And then you got another guy in the office locker room making $1 million a year for NIL. So it's got to be interesting the locker room in terms of the resentment, and this guy's making money and this other guy's not making anything. I know my buddy at A&M, they got $100 million in their war chest for NIL for football. Well, the Ducks come up with Nike money and just buy himself a team, get the best players. You're going to go who's going to pay you the most. That's why Saban got out. He goes, I'm not doing this. He called it. He says, you open up Pandora's box, it's not going to be good for sports. You mark my word, you watch, and it ain't going to be good. It's the has and has-nots. Yeah. And in the Big Ten, it'll be ruined. You'll have 3 teams, 4 teams. You'll have U.S. You'll have a couple teams on the West with the East, and it's done. You won't be able to compete because you're going to be able to buy the best team. And then if you don't, and these coaches, and what's happening is these coaches have a short leash. If you don't win in 2-3 years, and let's say you have a bad year, you're going to go get money, and then you're going to buy yourself a new team. And you can go to the portal. I can go in the portal. I'll play at Iowa, and make $500,000. Then I'm going to go make 700 grand at USC. And then the next year I'm going to go in the portal again, and I'm going to go to A&M and make $1 million, and then transfer to Texas and make $1.5 million. Every year I'll be at a new place. How can, as a coach, as a program, how do you, it's killing high school recruiting because you got to win today, and you can't wait on a 17, 18-year-old kid to develop and get strong and learn how to play football. And then plus there's no continuity. The kids they're hired guns. Crazy environment. Crazy.
Maybe there's a few pluses in it. Kids can get where they can play and they can get better that way. And what Trevor mentioned,
the kids can make money, and if you get hurt, you're not playing on Sundays. And it'd be nice to leave with $1.5 million, a couple $1 million in your pocket, and then graduate and go get a job or try to play in the league. At least you got a couple $1 million in your bank.
But then you've got these NFL guys that can't handle that money, and then you've got 5-year younger kids, 18-year-olds.
Can you imagine me in Iowa City making $500,000 NIL a year?
God, no.
Sports column on me, the whole sports column. Round on me. Brad,
just buy the sports column.
Yeah, exactly.
Donnie Stockley. He's my guy. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't pay for many drinks or food in Iowa City. Ever.
I'm buying drinks for the next 2 months at the sports column.
There you go. Put it on my tab.
I'll buy the sports column and the Deadwood. And just
exactly.
buy the
That
whole
was,
thing.
yeah. When we were there, it was Fieldhouse, Vito's, sports column. Oh my God, what else? Airliner, all downtown, and then Coralville, and yeah.
Yeah, Coralville's morphed, I'm sure. That just blossomed, right? That
just blew up. And then still, I get chills every at halftime with the hospital. Yeah, it's a special tradition they do for the kids.
Yeah, that part's great. Some of the stuff with the programs, like the quality of guys feels like it's there. And so I think that's one of the things I'm really proud of.
What do you mean quality guys?
I'm just saying, like, the quality of guys they're just good, solid people that we played with.
You don't see them out,
like,
beating up girls or getting caught doing drug deals.
Yeah.
They're good kids. They're Midwestern guys, and they're good guys. You're right.
For sure. So I love that part that I'm like, okay, I can talk to a guy playing now. I can talk to guys that played 10 years earlier than I did. The same guy, right?
Yeah.
Same guy, same quality.
It is the same kind of culture. You're right.
I'm proud of that piece. And
yeah,
I know it's hard to win football games, right? It's hard to win sustained games.
But sometimes you don't need the choir boy. I need a guy that's going to ball on Saturday and make plays. Yeah. Do I got to go out and have a drink with him at the field house or sports column? No, but if he can go out and run a 4.23 and catch a ball for me, yeah, that helps too. You know?
Yeah, sure. That's interesting. I think maybe it's some of his mindset, or just not like everyone's, oh, we're going to bowl games and we're great. We're great with that. 7 to 10 games, and maybe they have complacency maybe on that part.
And it's not like we can't draw a coach, because our coach, what Ferris is making, and his staff, they have the budget to pay anybody really to come up with the money. So you can go out and get whoever. Yeah, a quick story. So when Coach Fry retired, I really thought he was going to get the job, Bobby Stoops. He got to the final dance, and then he left, and they didn't offer him, and then he took the Oklahoma job, and the rest is history. So he wanted that job. His dad, I remember like it was yesterday. It was the Friday night before the Michigan game, and we got a knock on the door in the dorm, and Mike Stoops came and said, "Mark, I got something to tell you." And his dad had a heart attack on the sidelines at Cardinal Mooney in Ohio. Had a heart attack, died the night before the Michigan game.
Oh, wow.
Crazy. It was terrible. His heart, Bobby, Mike, Mark, his dad was buried in an Iowa 41 jersey.
Wow.
So that's a quick question. So I felt bad. So I get to Iowa as a freshman, and my number was 41 since I was 6 years old all the way through high school. 41 was my number. And I'm like, I'm getting 41. I'm a high recruit. And then I see the Stoops legacy has 41. Like, shit. Yeah, 41 was my number. I'm like, I can't. And then Coach Albee goes, in linebackers, we're in the 30s. I said, I want 40. Can't afford it. It's a Stoops number. So,
right.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. All right, take care.
Thanks, Brad.
Go Hawks.